itself. The sugar itself comes from. So I'm gonna wrap this up. These are some obvious key elements that a lot of our children are not getting. Water, as Mama Lachi spoke on earlier, sunlight. And this was key because there's a lot of our children who are not getting the proper sunlight. They're not getting outside enough because they're inside watching TV so much, because they're inside playing video games so much, because they're inside in school and they're not letting them come outside for whatever reason. But this is a key element, especially for black children, because it nourishes the pineal gland. It's needed for melanin production. It's needed for immune system function. And it's needed to nourish the nervous system. And it's needed for hormonal and glandular regulation. So now when we're talking about a lot of these chemical imbalances that are going on, you can almost directly correlate it to that. Not getting enough sunlight outside. And in addition, of course, to the foods. Then we have fresh air, which goes right along with this, especially living in the city. And you have exercise, which is why there's such a rise in childhood obesity also, to go along with the lack of those nutrients. So these are foods that the children should be getting more of to nourish their brains, their nervous systems, and their proper development. So we have proteins, and a lot of people who are vegetarian are concerned about protein. For the nourishment of the brain and the nervous system, protein is essential. It's essential, but the major sources where you're going to get the best proteins from are seeds, nuts, and the legumes, which are like beans, lentils, etc. They supply pretty much all the protein that your body needs, and especially the seeds and also seaweeds, which I do not put down there, sea vegetables, I should call it. We also have B vitamins. As I spoke about before, how important the B vitamins are to help nourish the nervous system, for the digestive system, for mood stability. So we have to make sure that our children are getting B vitamin supplements. Sugars really take away, because now the body has to go out of its own stores. Whatever your body can't get, the nutrients that it needs to break down the substance, it has to go out of its own stores to break down that substance. So now it's robbing and it's creating a deficiency. So the B vitamins are essential. So if you know children who are hyperactive, a lot of times they can benefit from a B vitamin supplement. But the foods primarily is where you want to target it from. And that's going to be found again in your vegetables, your sea vegetables, your whole grains, and your fruits, and the legumes. So they're pretty easy to get. But you want to make sure that whenever you can eat raw foods, raw forms of these different things, with the B vitamins in particular, you want to make sure that you're getting enough raw foods, or the children are getting enough raw foods, right? Because that's very important. And so a lot of times those nutrients can be lost during the cooking process. We also have potassium and magnesium, and another one that I did not put down there, which is selenium. Selenium, because our soil is very depleted of selenium, which is another natural mineral. And with that, that's needed for the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, which helps to control the ability to relax, and which also relates to the ability to grow and develop. So when you're talking about growth, development, melanin production, the ability to relax, and the ability to be on a higher consciousness, this is important also. Another thing that I did not write down is antioxidants, such as vitamin C, vitamin A, which are vitamin E, which are primarily found again through your raw foods. So we want to definitely increase the amount of raw foods that our children are eating, because that is essential to their growth and development and for their nervous system, so they're not just flying off the wall from not getting the proper nutrition added on to the other factors. some supplements. There are natural supplements that you can also utilize to help calm the children down. You can, I'm going to wrap it up really, so you can come see me personally if you have any concerns about that. We deal with autism, we deal with ADHD. You know, we don't really believe in ADHD like that. Calm the child's nervous system down and to help increase the ability to concentrate. We have different herbs, there are different natural supplements for it. So you can come over to our table here when the presentation is finished and we can discuss more things as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll give it up again for Dr. The conversation we were having earlier about about agriculture and food security is very, 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 very vital. I don't know how much we are really conceiving this conversation about sustainability in the African community, but I think for probably like the last 5 years, you've probably heard a lot of people saying stuff like we're going green or whatever, whatever, whatever. It's been real big, kind of crept into the consciousness, kind of crept into the mainstream of our culture. But this is because there's a problem with white people eating all the food. Okay, the United States consumes the bulk of the food on the planet, and they throw most of it away. Our community, you know, for lack of a better term, we've gotten away from the earth. Okay, we stopped growing our own foods. We started relying on the grocery store. Okay, we started relying on the fast food restaurant. We started relying on everything outside of ourselves in order to produce what we were brought here to grow food. I mean, and this is, you know, unfortunate, you know, that we've gotten away from what is our natural inclination, our connection to the earth. The sister was concerned about the seeds. Now, I'll tell you the God honest truth. I don't know if Southern Seed Exchange has the best seeds, but I do watch a lot of documentaries. Okay, and so some of the documentaries that I've been able to watch, one called Food Matters. There's another one called Dirt. Dirt. I don't know the subtitle, but it's called Dirt, and it talks about just dirt. You know how important is dirt? Just real rich earth. You know what I'm saying? And in this documentary, you have a East Indian woman whose mission has been to save the original seeds, you know, in her country. Like, she has a huge facility where all she has is jars of, you know, original seeds, so that, you know, when you know, the farmers or whatever, when all this biotechnology comes through, she's got the real seeds, you know. So there are people that are extremely concerned about this, and this ties directly into the topic about our youth, because as our kids come up, we're not teaching our kids that food comes from a plant. It comes from the earth. It grows. You pick it, chop it up, and you cook it. You know, they don't conceive. Food comes from the grocery store to most kids. But what if the grocery store closes?
No, food comes from the refrigerator.
Right, it comes from the refrigerator. My name. So we have to really conceive of that, and I think that it's important if you have, you know, the desire, you know, really think about what can you grow in your own house. You know, there's ways that you can get bins, or you can create a little raised bed in your backyard and grow what you use. You know, grow some kale. If you eat kale, grow some potatoes. If you eat potatoes, if you eat onions, grow onions. These are things that grow tomatoes. If you eat tomatoes, save money, but at the same time you're reconnecting. You know it's organic because you grew it. You know, ain't no better way to show and prove that this is the real food other than I grew it myself. But that's an important issue. Next up to the stage, I don't want to digress too long. Good brother, powerful brother. I've known this brother for years. Garveyite. Met him as a member of the Universal Negro Improvement Association years and years ago. My brother Umar Abdullah-Johnson, school psychologist, one of the most, I would say, resourceful young African scholars that I know of, bringing relevant information. We have a lot of brothers in the community that talk about everything from metaphysics, but just to African history. But I think that a lot of times we need some practical, right now information. You know, some information as to what is my child going through right now, what can I do about it to stop it. You know, everything else kind of circle, you know, it's the foundational stuff, but we need to definitely target and pinpoint what is going on right now. And we need to target what's going on right now. And Brother Umar is definitely coming at that from an educational perspective, which is something that our youth really need to have a better understanding. And as parents, we need to have a better understanding of for our youth. But without further ado, y'all give it up for Brother Umar Abdullah-Johnson.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Umar Johnson. I'm a psychologist, an educator, political scientist, great-great-great-great-grandnephew to Frederick Douglass. Wow. And today we're going to talk about special education, psychotropic medication, homosexualization, incarceration, and extermination. There's 5 stages that this government has set up to destroy every black man walking on earth, but particularly here in the United States. The first one is miseducation. It's also the most important one, because if they succeed here, the subsequent 4 steps become a whole lot more easier to conceive of. Miseducation has 3 stages, or 3 primary goals. The first is to teach the black man to hate himself. The second is to teach him to love white people. And the third is to effeminize or homosexualize him. There's no way you can understand the disruptive behavior disorder movement against black boys if you don't understand the goal of homosexualization. Black boys who refuse to be effeminized or homosexualized are almost in all cases diagnosed with conduct disorder and oppositional defiant disorder. Conduct disorder and oppositional defiant disorder are disorders of black men who refuse to join the American social order. ADHD does not really stand for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It really stands for the absence of the daddy from the home disorder. The government locks up the men, leave the women alone to raise boys. And as a result of that, discipline lacks. When discipline lacks and when the father isn't there, children go to school looking for the emotional love from their father that they're not getting. They seek it out from their teachers and principals and guidance counselors. The same thing happened when we were young, but back then psychology didn't turn it into a $45 billion a year industry. And so now Adderall, Prozac, Cycler, Depakote, Paxil, the list goes on. They're pushing drugs, but drugs don't cure. Drugs create more problems than they solve. The first thing you have to understand about the institution of psychology is that it's one of the most important in the entire science of white supremacy. Psychology is key, because psychology is the only science that can make up disorders out of the clean blue sky and make you accept them as real. Every psychological diagnosis is a professional opinion. There is no test I can give you to tell you if your child has ADHD. There's no test I can give you to tell if you're truly depressed or not. These are socially constructed labels created to fulfill a social end. In slavery, they used to diagnose enslaved Africans with negritude and drapetomania. Drapetomania was a disorder that was diagnosed by a white psychologist named Dr. Samuel Cartwright in the southern part of the United States. Drapetomania was a disease that led the slave to believe that he had a right to be free. You can look it up. Actual psychiatric diagnosis, drapetomania. And guess what the cure was? The cure for the psychiatric condition of drapetomania was to whip the living hell out of the slave. So every escaped slave was diagnosed with drapetomania. Benjamin Rush, who signed the Declaration of Independence. Benjamin Rush used to diagnose, he was also the first chair of the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine. He used to diagnose slaves with a disease called negritude. Negritude was a disease that rendered the brain totally useless. The #1 symptom of negritude was black